Heavyweight title rematch between Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua. This time it was from Saudi Arabia. Remember their first match, June 1st, Madison Square Garden, and Ruiz scored a shocking upset. Now it was Joshua with a chance to redeem himself. Let's take a look how it went down. Here we go. Now, Joshua, the Olympic gold medalist, looking to get back those titles. Meanwhile, Ruiz, he was a 15-1 underdog in that first fight, more than a 2-1 dog in this one. Late first, Joshua lands a nice right hand, opens up that cut on the left eye of Ruiz. If the bodies look a little different, well, one guy gained 15 pounds, one guy lost 15 pounds. I'm not even going to bother to tell you which is which. I think you can tell. All right. Then, see that late round 4, comes off with some power punches, fires off a few there. And then round 7, Joshua with the big right hand, Ruiz firing back. Round 9, they're mixing it up. Head, body, head again. You know, Joshua's sort of in control pretty much throughout here. He wins by unanimous decision. He regains the IFB, IBO, and WBA title. All right, Brian Campbell is our guy. He's the man. Our pugilist expert, knows boxing. Love having him on the program. All right, first up, how about your first overall reaction, BC?
That, skills pay the bills, like Anthony Joshua said. And while that first fight was a wild sort of car wreck with action, Anthony Joshua did what he had to do in the rematch to really lessen the entertainment value, but rely on his strengths to cruise to, in the end, what was an easy victory. He's got a 4-inch height and an 8-inch reach advantage, and he used that, constantly circling away and working behind his big jab to keep this a boxing match and never really allowing it to become a fight, which really favored the quick-handed Ruiz the first time around when they met in April. This time it was Joshua really overcoming a ton of pressure, with some critics even wondering if his career was on the line due to how mentally destructive that first loss was. He put everything back together, and the one biggest thing he did, Eric, was never really take any chances, never really gamble. He landed big power shots singularly, but he was constantly moving, and he forced Ruiz to chase, and Ruiz was never able to land more than one punch at a time. And the added weight gain, which Ruiz did blame afterwards for his poor performance, certainly proved to be the difference in this the second time around.
Yeah, when you and I talked about this leading up, we talked about the fact that Joshua had lost a bunch of weight, and would that hurt him? Well, when you couple that with the weight gain of Ruiz, boy, they look like different guys this time around. Talk more about, were you disappointed? Did you understand? Did you think it was intentional? Did you think this was just a guy who was cashing in? What did you think about the weight gain and Ruiz's physique in this one?
Yeah, Ruiz had played the role of sort of, modern-day Buster Douglas, lovable underdog to perfection, like he was out of central casting, the first heavyweight champion of Mexican descent. But the problem is he seems to really have lived it up as heavyweight champion over the past 8 months, and it looked unprofessional, if not just disappointing in the size when he came up to the scales on Friday, kept a shirt on, kept a sombrero on, weighing in 15 pounds heavier than he had the first fight, which, by the way, was the exact weight difference when Buster Douglas upset Mike Tyson, then lost his title in his first title defense against Evander Holyfield. And for Ruiz, like I mentioned, the weight gain was obvious, but more importantly, never able to land more than one punch at a time, never able to consistently close distance and really turn this into a fun fight. In the end, what you had was a fight that wasn't all that exciting or entertaining, but that perfectly played into Joshua's hands. So he used his size and reach just as much as his IQ and mind. So to see Joshua, the 6'6" hulking slugger, come in just a little bit more thin so he can move better and rely on his speed in boxing, it was a smart adjustment. And for the second time, Anthony Joshua has control of this heavyweight division with 3 of 4 titles around his waist.
All right, well, considering how the first one went, and then talked about how the second one went and the weight and stuff like that, do you think there is and wait for my pun here, an appetite for a third fight?
Both fighters somewhat surprisingly talked up that appetite afterwards, saying they both wanted it. It would be a harder sell to the general public considering how one-sided and really non-entertaining this rematch ultimately was. But boxing politics are what they are. There's different sides of the streets depending on what network you fight for. And while this is a hot heavyweight division at the moment, we all cannot wait until February when Tyson Fury, the lineal champion, has that rematch with WBC champion Deontay Wilder. If this trilogy goes down, there's a hook and story to it, but it's hard to guess that it would be competitive, even with Ruiz shedding more weight this time around. Joshua's proved that he's the better fighter.
Brian Campbell, you're the best. Thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you.
All right, you want more BC? You need more BC? We've got more BC. That's right. Brian Campbell, State of Combat. That is your podcast for all things boxing, wrestling, MMA. If they're throwing hands, he's got you covered. It's part of our great group of CBS Sports podcasts.